Good morning, everyone. On this amazing 1st of August, a warm welcome to our webinar on automation of reinstatement. We're so glad you can join us. My name is Shani Kelly from the Corporate Education Unit, and I'll be your moderator today. I am delighted to be joined by Advocate Krista Cloco and her team. Please feel free to write your questions on the comments section as you listen to this presentation. I would also like to remind everyone of the Learn IBIS Director e-learning program, which is available on the CIPC website. Please feel free to explore it yourself and share it with anyone that you think might benefit from it. I now hand you over to Advocate Krista.
Good morning, Shani and team, and good morning all our customers. Thank you so much for joining us today on this, as she said, the 1st of August, 1 month until springtime. I'm not a winter person. So hopefully, just like spring is around the corner, hopefully this new release, pending release, will also be welcomed with great warmth. We do acknowledge as the CIPC the current reinstatement system for companies and closed corporation is highly problematic. It is designed on a very old system and an old database, and there's so many things that had to be checked with, and which actually frustrated the customers yourselves as well as us in CIPC. So the good news is the last couple of months, we have been working on the design and the development of a fully automated reinstatement process for companies and closed corporations. As we know from previous webinars, final deregistration is now going to become a daily occurrence for non-compliant companies and closed corporations. So therefore, we need to, as the CIPC, also focus on having a better reinstatement process for clients. So I'm going to take you through. I'm going to, please bear with me. I'm also going to fall back a little bit on how does this automation fit into the CIPC strategy, and knowing that it makes quite easier to understand and why certain things work the way that it does. I'm going to take just through again through the requirements for reinstatements. Remember, there's still legal requirements that have to be complied with. So I'm going to take you through that as well. And then I'm going to go through a step-by-step. We're not going to demo it, but we've made screenshots of the different steps, and we're going to take you through it step by step. We're also busy with a step-by-step guide, and as well as other material that will help you to use the system once it actually goes live. Then again, just a few incidental matters. Shani has already referred to the Learn IBIS. Please, if you are acting on behalf of customers, please advise your customers who are directors and members to do the Learn IBIS so that they are fair with their legal requirements as directors and members. And then just a quick resource as to the practice note and other sources that needs to be read with this. All right, so let's start. So what's the objective of automation? So it's aligned to the CIPC strategy for us to automate all our services and also to provide the services on a far more better and efficient platforms. As I stated, the reinstatement system runs on a very old system. It runs on emails if you send in your applications, and that is problematic. We also know that there is on the legacy systems within CIPC, there is sometimes lack of communication from the system. The back office, we don't press a little button to send a notification. It's all system driven. So we have improved the communication to the customers, the filers who are filing the information throughout the whole process. So as you reach the certain steps, you now reach the OTP, you'll get a email. If your OTPs was successful, you'll get an email. Once you are due for payment, you'll get an email to remind you throughout the process. We will also remind you if you haven't filed all your outstanding annual returns post your successful processing of the reinstatement. There will also be a reminder that goes out to the filer to remind that the annual returns are still outstanding. So there is going to be a lot more emails and communications that hopefully will support this and support you as the customers throughout the reinstatement process. Of course, we want to reduce administrative errors and inquiries, and we all know there was a lot of administrative errors. If the customer code is not clearly legible or the ID copy is of a poor quality, we couldn't make out the customer code. If there was no funds in the account, if the document was not signed. So there's a whole host of administrative errors that comes with this legacy system. So all of those things that we would have checked in the background, in the back office, whether it's a valid customer code, whether there's payment in the account, is the enterprise name and number correct or does respond, it's now all going to be done by the system. All right, we would definitely want to improve the service standards and turnaround times. The process that we have is just as frustrating it is for you, it is as well for us. It's in the first 3 months of April, May, and June, we've processed over 24,000 reinstatement applications. So it's quite a lot through a legacy system. Then we also want to do better data collection and data control in our services. And then we also want to integrate more with better other services. So in the reinstatement automation, there's going to be a new type of integration. So reinstatements are basically the pilot for it. It is called geolocation. So all the new services that's coming online in the next while, external company automation, we're busy with a voluntary deregistration automation as well. They will have something that we call the geolocator. So when you indicate the date of, not the date, the physical address of the company or closed corporation, you're going to put in the first line of the address, and then it will automatically check against Google whether it's a valid address and as well as the latitude and longitude. So we can pinpoint far better where this business is actually operating from. And this, with the other processes that we have eventually over time, as we introduce this geolocator to more services, it will also help to drop the manual requirement of the proof of address. So that is one of our new automations. And then, of course, there will be a download functionality if you want to re-access the documents. All right. We are aiming to release this on the 11th of August. So there will be a notice going out next week. As soon as we just completed our last step of the governance process, we've got a governance committee called CAB, Change Advisory Board, whereby this service must be submitted to a broader spectrum of senior managers and divisional managers in CIPC. And once it gets approved there, we can start prepping for the release. So we just need to clear that governance, but we're aiming for it to go live on the 11th of August. Just to note, when we release the automation, we are going to shut down the processing mailbox, reinstatements at cipc.co.za. In other words, as soon as we deactivate, you will not be able to email in an application. You'll get a message back to say that the mailbox has been deactivated. But any application that was received before the mailbox gets deactivated, we will still continue to process it from the back end. Right? So you don't have to worry. You try to avoid to submit twice. Please don't submit twice. You may run the risk because the automation runs on a new database while the manual system that we have runs on an older database. These two systems cannot be linked up. So if you have a pending application for reinstatement, it may get processed twice because the two databases, the structures are different, so that we can't properly align it. So please do not submit twice under the old and the new system, please. And then reinstatements will be fully online. No supporting documents are required to be submitted on the application or the service, but you are still required to keep your evidence that the business was in business at the time of deregistration. Right? You still need to keep that evidence. It's still a legal requirement that the company or CC must have been in business at the time of deregistration to apply. Lying to the CIPC, submitting false information to the CIPC is a criminal offense, and we will prosecute if we find out that this business was not in business. In addition to that, we will roll back all the transactions, annual return filings, and the reinstatement for this entity to go back into final. So please do not submit false information to the CIPC and make sure that this business was in business at the time of deregistrations. For court orders, it works slightly different. This is a very low volume area. We get about 5 court orders in a month. That will have to be uploaded because we have to make sure that it was a valid court order. We cannot just assume that the court order was correct. Right, requirements for the reinstatements, as I stated, with great emphasis. My apologies for that. The entity must have been in business at the time of final deregistration. And we can call for the evidence to support that at any time. So part of this development, we're going to have a back office facility whereby we are going to request some companies and closed corporations to provide that evidence to us. So we already have that functionality. It will be released with this automation. So we are going to ask for that information. So please keep it ready. You will just upload that once we request it, you will upload it for us to confirm. And again, it's a criminal offense to submit false information to the CIPC. Right. This is also very important, especially for the court orders. I always have to repeat this. Although the Companies Act states that any interested party may apply for the reinstatement of a company and closed corporation, it's very important to note that due to other provisions in the Companies Act, like the filing of annual return, beneficial ownership, and AFS, which cannot be done by a third party, only the company or the CC through their representative or themselves can file for reinstatement. So let's say, sorry, I see some beautiful names here in the comments. I'm going to say Lucky, for example. Lucky is a creditor of ZWE's company. Lucky cannot just apply for the reinstatement if ZWE's company has been finally deregistered. Lucky, through his attorneys, will have to go to a court to get a court order for reinstatement for it, because Lucky do not have the mandate and do not have the information to file the annual returns, beneficial ownership, and the AFS as part of the reinstatement end-to-end process. Therefore, Lucky, I'm sorry, you have to go to court if you want to get your creditor reinstated. Steps for the reinstatement. So there's still a logical step because there's others post the reinstatement. There's some other steps that needs to be completed. You need to prepare yourself and your clients for the filing, determine the status. The system will only allow you to reinstate if the company or CC is finally deregistered, right? So the status must be checked. Then there must be an assessment done as to whether the company or CC was in business at the time of final deregistration. That is a standing requirement for the last decade, and it's still there. Then, if it meets the requirements, then you have to source all the required information for the reinstatement, your evidence that it was in business, keep it in your file. Getting all the information in order to submit the annual returns, which will include the turnovers for each of the missing years. The AFS or FAS information needs to be prepared and ready, and then also the beneficial ownership information must be ready to be submitted. So step 3, source all your required information. Step 4, then you can apply for the reinstatement via any of the electronic platforms. Once the application has been submitted, you will get an email to say it's time to pay. You've got 5 days to pay the 200 Rand for the reinstatement application. If you don't pay in 5 days, the system will automatically terminate your filing and you have to restart it. After the reinstatement has been successful, right? So remember, with final deregistration, the legal entity does not exist, so it cannot really make decisions. So we have to process the reinstatement application first, pay for it, and then the status will update to reinstatement process. Only thereafter will the system allow the filing of the annual returns and the beneficial ownership and the AFS. And that part, step 6, must be filed within 30 business days. Then, as well, once the annual returns has been filed and the status is in business, please ensure that the director's details and addresses are up to date so that we can minimize the final deregistration due to the fact that people do not get their notifications. All right, so please bear that in mind. Again, just the examples of economic proof that must be kept for CIPC to ask at any time. We've already gone through court orders. If there's any attorneys online this morning, please note the court orders. The court order must also have a prayer that the company or CC post the court order implementation must also submit outstanding annual returns. The cost, the court order is free, as we know, and the reinstatement application is 200 Rand, plus then the outstanding annual return fees. And it will be available on our major 3 channels, the BIS portal for those that are doing their own affairs, those that act as intermediaries or service providers, that is the e-services, and then for walk-in clients to service those that do not always have access to the internet, they can go to any of our self-service terminals or offices, and they will be able to file that from there. So let's quickly go through the step-by-steps. So most of you, hopefully, is already au fait with the basic steps of our online system, so I'm not going to put too much focus on every step. Of course, you will log in with your customer code and password. I've only used e-services here as for the intermediaries. BIS portal, of course, will have its own different login. It will have its service banner that you can just click on. But the steps are going to be pretty much the same on the service itself. All right, so you log in, you select transact, and then at the bottom, you click on more services. On the more services, it's not quite clear there. At the bottom, there's company and CC reinstatement. So you'll click on that. Then it will take you to the terms and conditions. So with the elements that I've put on emphasis, for example, must have been in business at the time of final deregistration. Submitting false information to the CIPC is a criminal offence. We will revoke the transactions. The conditions for a court order, and of course, whether the person has got the mandate. So I'm going to quickly now pick on Colette. So Colette, in order for you to file on behalf of your client, and I'm then also going to sort of like highlight on Celeste. So Colette is the representative for Celeste Gouse's company. So Colette needs to get a mandate, an instruction in law to submit it on her behalf, as Celeste is the director or the member of the closed corporation. So Colette must confirm that she does have a mandate to file that information. It's part of the company's regulations that unauthorized people should not be filing. So we're checking there. And remember, if you click there and you've lied to us, it's a criminal offense. So once you agree to all of those conditions, you click on I agree, and then you select on continue. All right, so now we're quickly going to run through the steps. It's actually quite quick. So you will be on the first landing page of the service. You will click on new applications. Just below the button of new applications, Malasela has submitted like 5 reinstatement applications on the release of the new system. Remember, we can't throw in the old things under the old manual system. So Malasela has had the mandate to submit 5 reinstatements for his clients, and it will show under historical applications that he has submitted, and it will show the status for him. Sorry, I don't have a screen for it. So it will say if Malasela still needs to provide the OTP for one of those transactions, there will be a status in the historical applications part to say OTP is awaited, completed. So you can actually monitor your applications as well from this primary dashboard. But we are now doing a new application, so we're clicking now on new applications. What we have built in based on, we've got a lot of feedback that customers are frustrated, especially those that are not regular customers to the CIPC, those that comes in once in a while when things needs to get done. They do the reinstatement only to realize that there's a lot of annual return fees that also must be paid unnecessarily. So they went for reinstatement due to a lack of understanding and knowledge instead of registering a new company. So what we have done is we've built in the annual return calculator as one of the first steps to go through. So it will show all the historical transactions. Oh, sorry, I'm one step ahead. My sincere apologies. So once you've clicked on new, I'm really sorry, I actually misread my own screen. So once you've clicked new companies, new application, it will reflect everything that you're associated with. Remember, we can only associate, so I'm going to take Malasela again. So Malasela is the director of one company. That one company will reflect there. His customers which he services will not reflect there because we use Malasela's ID number when he logs into the system to identify directorships and memberships. And if he is an active director and member, we will reflect that under the dashboard. So you will not, so Celeste Gous, for example, she's an intermediary. She will not see the clients for which she is submitting on that dashboard. But in that case, there is a search option. So you'll click on the search facility, you will type in the full registration number, and then it will pop up at the bottom of the screen, and you just click on the hand if that is the correct one. Then you've got your two main options, your reinstatement application or your court order. We are going to run through reinstatement applications because that is the most used. Those that want to do court orders, you can just follow the prompts. The prompts are quite similar and you just upload and the back office will examine it. So we're clicking on a reinstatement application. We've then added the dashboard of the calculator as I indicated. So it will show all the previous filings of annual returns plus those years that are outstanding. So you'll type in the turnover for those outstanding annual return years. You'll click on calculate and it will show you the total amount plus the 200 Rand fee. If it is too expensive or the company was not in business at the time of deregistration or had no economic value, there is a little link to say, not a little link, but you click on the red, click here, and then the system will take you to the BIS portal to register a new company. Remember, we're trying to build these services for ultimately for the business owner, him or herself, to do themselves. So then they will click there. All right, then you'll indicate your industry. As I stated, there's an expectation on the CIPC to collect more data for economic decision making. So we need to know in what industry this business is actually doing business. You'll click it down on the select industry type. If you are unsure which one to select, in the guidance box, you click on the blue link. It will take you to the SARS SIC code search document whereby you can search the main industry for it. Please note that industries is a drop down. You cannot free type it. Okay, so you indicate your industry. Then we just want to confirm the physical address. As indicated, we have got a geolocation function on this. So you type in the first row and the rest of the system will pre-populate based on Google Maps. and it will determine your geolocations, your latitude and longitude that we can search at any time, whether it's an empty plot of land or an office building. Just double check. Sometimes Google do not update all the fields, so just make sure that the the areas marked with the red asterisk is auto completed by Google before you press the button to save and continue. Then the next step is basically we want to know who of the directors um, decided to reinstate. So we'll give you the list of all the active directors and members. You just click on the view option for those that has resolved or given you the instruction to do the reinstatement process. So you'll open up the screen. Please note that you will not be able to amend anything. Remember, in reinstatements, it's still a dead company. We cannot update that information. But as for you to go through as the service provider or the director to note whose information is outstanding in order for that information to be updated. So you'll confirm it, and please note all the information is masked with crosses because we do need to consider POPI and privacy because anybody can log in here and then get contact details. So that's why the information is masked. Then you click on resolve. If there are 2 directors or 2 members that resolve to do the reinstatement, you'll just view the second one. Then you're almost at the end. You've got your confirmation screen that reflects the company for which you're applying for the reinstatement, the directors and members who have resolved it, and if it's a court order, it will just upload, reflect there that there was a court order. You'll click on confirm and you'll go to the O2P page. So in this case, you'll just click on go to O2P on the little screen there at the top, and it will open up the O2P screen for you. Very important, we want to know that the person who logged in is the person that actually received the OTP. That is in line with standard protocols with online verifications. So you'll have to require to type your ID number and it will pre-populate. And then you only type in or provide the OTP via SMS or email. Either one of the two. You don't have to do both. So it's an either or. And then you'll just say submit or verify. And Bob's your uncle. Your information is now submitted. You will then get an email and your application will be moved to the online payment card, whereby you can click onto it and then complete the online prompts for card payment. Please note that it's CIPC's strategy to move away from the old system of making the deposits or the declining balance because it's highly problematic for us. So you will then only be allowed to do card payments via your bank card. When paying, especially if you are a once-off customer that only comes in once in a while, your bank card must be activated for online payments in order to complete this. So you click on the little trolley, you confirm which matters you want to pay for, remove the unnecessary transactions, you click on and check out, and then you follow the online payment prompts. Once it has been paid, you'll get an email with a notification that the reinstatement was successful, the application was successfully submitted. Please proceed to file all the outstanding annual returns and beneficial ownership and AFS. Your process is not complete if such was not paid or submitted within 30 business days after your reinstatement application. Of course, you as the customer will get a reminder to say, listen, this annual returns and beneficial ownership information is still outstanding 10 days before the 30 business days has lapsed. And that brings you to the end of the reinstatement application. And if you want to access your documents again, you can just go to that company reinstatement document page, you click on download, and you follow the prompts to access your documents. So that brings us into the automation. Basically, just quickly do a recap. You'll log in, new application, select reinstatement application, confirm the turnovers for the outstanding years, for the total fee to be calculated. You will then submit the industry within which the business is doing business. You will provide the physical address. You will confirm which directors have given you the mandate to submit the reinstatement application. You follow the OTPs and you will pay, and it's done. And then you can proceed with your annual returns and beneficial ownership information. Right? So it really, if all your information is there, it's going to go very, very quickly. And as I stated, all the validations that we have at the back office, checking that there's the right company, it's all now within your domain. If you've accidentally submitted for the wrong company, that is your responsibility. Please read the screens to make sure that you are filing for the correct company. We still get it on annual returns where people submit for the incorrect companies and CCs because they've accidentally typed the wrong registration number and they didn't check the name that reflects. All right, and the inquiry mailbox, I know that's also one of the frustrating areas, the long delays in that. We've currently have an overtime project going on, so we've cleared and brought all the applications up to date. We are now focusing on bringing all the inquiries up to date. So inquiries at reinstatements at cipc.co.za, or the call center will be if you've got any inquiries. A reminder that all annual returns must be filed as part of the process. If you have got excess funds in your customer code and you want to refund, you need to log that via revenue at cipc.co.za. And then also your bank card must be authorized for online payments. For those that are not intermediaries, please, or if you don't follow us, please follow us on all the social or any of our social media platforms that you can keep up to breast to new developments, webinars, etc. We've already gone through the Learn iBiz, and then your resources, which we are waiting for the publication, is the release notice will go out as soon as a media release will go out as soon as our last governance step has been completed. On the release date, we'll issue the release notice with basically the same information that I have indicated during this webinar. We have also issued, we're waiting for the publication of a government gazette notice that reinstatements may only be filed electronically. From this release date, we will not accept manual reinstatement filings on the release date. And of course, there's a practice note because the Companies Act require when we add things into the process, we need to issue a practice note. So basically, the practice note will say we need to confirm your address via the geolocation functionality, and the company or CC must have been in business at the time of deregistration. So that brings me to the end of this. Hopefully you are as excited as I am for a smoother, easier process for reinstatements. So yes, so thank you very much for your time. That brings me to the end. And if there's any questions, let's start the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Krista. That was really very informative. And I am excited as well. Okay, our first question is from Colette. Colette, I know you have addressed it, but let's just read her question. It is my understanding to do away with the virtual account and use a credit or debit card. Frustrating to add funds to a virtual account for certain services. It took 4 months for the funds to show in my virtual account. Can you give us some clarity with response to her virtual account and her frustrations she's experiencing?
All right, Colette. So I assume the virtual account that you're referring to is what we call the declining balance. That's where you've made the deposit into your customer code that you use it for. So with this new online service, it's part of the strategy that we're moving away from that virtual account to only credit and debit cards. So meaning if you don't have money in your credit or debit card, you can't pay for the new service. So we're actually doing away with it. We did have some challenges with our with ABSA I think we all can attest the last couple of months, a lot of online systems, not just the CIPC, has been a little bit, my apologies for the word, flaky and inconsistent. And we unfortunately were also impacted, especially on receiving the files from APSA for the allocation of those deposits. So apologies for that. But with a new card payment, as long as there's money in your credit card or debit card, you can pay immediately.
Okay, our next question. Sizwe, regarding proof of address, what about business address in a farm or village? We don't have a street name and number.
All right, so I think they did test for that. The farm will be the farm name, for example. So just play around online. It should be accommodated because remember, this works with geolocation. And even if you are in a village, the precise point that you're standing at this way, or where you're, let's say it's a spaza shop, for example, it's got a latitude and a longitude. So just play around to get that close enough. And if you're always interested, you can actually type in Google Maps, can actually go type in what is the, just for interest, we were playing around with this a little bit. What is the latitude and longitude for 365 Glenwood, for example. So you can actually do it that way. There should not be a problem for it.
Thank you for that. Our next query is regarding, comment is from Jackie. Jackie, with regard to your email application that you have submitted, I have looked up on our system regarding it, and I see that it has been rejected. So please go to your emails, see that it has been rejected and the reasons for the rejection so that you can correct them and reapply for them. Is there anything else that you would like to respond to or add, Advocate Krista?
Yes, thank you so much, Jackie. Yes, that's precisely the reason why we did the automation. There was a reason that was not, it got rejected. And this system will make it totally easier. But in the meantime, please don't wait. Correct it. Go to the notices on the CIPC website that states the requirements and then just resubmit. And you can also email the inquiry mailbox, which you've already done. And the reason why Shani knows precisely where it is, she assists on reinstatement as part of her daily duties. So just correct your application and then resubmit.
Krista, you are giving away my secrets. Okay, our next comment. The courts are not assisting. They say they know nothing of such process.
Successor, you need to go to an attorney to submit these things. Reinstatement applications is not a magistrate's court matter. It's high court matters because you deal with the legal status of legal entities and natural persons. So your magistrate's courts will not know about this. You need to go to an attorney who will then start the process.
Okay, thank you for that response. Hi CIPC, my company has been automatically deregistered by, and I would like to get the deregistered confirmation letter so that I could submit it to SARS.
Okay, please note. Sorry. Please note that the focus here is on the automation of the reinstatement system. We're not going to attend to other inquiries like the deregistration letters or the API. I see there's a lot of comments about the APIs. We cannot comment to that. We are keeping to the focus of this, which is reinstatements. Thank you.
Okay, so our next comment. So company secretaries will not be able to apply for reinstatement or auditors either.
Tianet, as I stated before when we went through the process, yes, they will. They just need to make sure that they've got a mandate from the company to say that they are authorized to reinstate. As a service provider, you cannot just make a decision on behalf of your client. You need to get an express mandate in law to do so. So the system will allow um, auditors, accounting officers, intermediaries, company secretaries to apply for the reinstatement. Just note the conditions, the terms and conditions that explicitly state that there's a little bit of homework that needs to be done and that you will be held liable if you didn't check those things before you submit or clicked I agree.
Our next comment. There was a notice waiving economic activity clause.
Nope.
There was no notice. Okay.
There has been no notice. That notice that you're referring to, Malesela, actually stated that they still had to be in business at the time or had economic activity. The only difference is even under the current manual, to alleviate the pressure, it was not required to submit the proof. But you still are legally, if you read the notice, it clearly states you're still obliged to keep the evidence because we may ask for it at any time. No, a normal BO mandate cannot work.
Okay. Our next comment. So the owner of the company may only reinstate the company, no third party. So one cannot do it on behalf of someone.
Unless you've got a mandate to do so and you've got the information from them.
Okay. Claudette's question is deregistered confirmation. Let's go to the next one. Lucky. If company has been deregistered, but you have not started, so what can I do?
You register a new company for 175 Rand.
If the company is not trading, but has property in the company, is that when you get a court order?
As I stated, if you refer to the previous slides, you get a court order when you do not have a mandate from the company or CC to submit on to apply for reinstatement, because you don't have a mandate to file annual returns, beneficial of AFS or FAS, right? So that's when you go to the court. If it has property, or there is a vehicle, or there's a valid lease agreement, or for example, there is shares in this company that needs to be transferred out, that is economic proof. Although they were physically not trading as the normal sense of buying and selling goods or delivering a service, the company was used for another purpose, right? For another economic purpose. If you've got that evidence, you can still apply, or if you've got the mandate, you can apply for the reinstatement via the reinstatement process. Celeste, please refer to the list, and it's been on the previous reinstatement webinars in the last couple of months. Examples of economic proof will include property.
Okay. Our next one is, when will this process be live? I think you have addressed that.
Now, let me just quickly refresh it for everybody. It is, as I stated, we're almost done with it. We just need to clear our last governance procedures, and we are planning for the release for the 11th. But we have to clear our governance structures first. So please monitor us online, because we will communicate on the day that that last step has been completed with the appropriate release date.
Thank you, Advocate. Claudette, love that you offered this webinar before it became live on the website. Thank you for that.
We trying, Colette.
I see Celeste's question is repeated about the court order. Our Jody is our next question. Can we use the credits on our CIPC profile to make payment?
No, that is declining balance that you're referring to. So you will not be able to use that in your profile.
Our next question. Okay, sorry, Advocate.
No, please go ahead.
Our next question. How far back can a company be reinstated Does it matter?
So our law, the Companies Act, does not provide a limit as to when a company or CC can be reinstated. So it can be any time, provided that there was economic proof. So a lot of the older companies that we are reinstating that's older than a decade usually have got immovable property that the that people did not know about, especially on family businesses. So yes, there is no limitation in the South African law for reinstatement.
Okay. Jeanette's question. We applied for reinstatement. It was approved. And when we wanted to pay the AR, the money deposited in the CIPC account only reflected 7 days later. We closed the reinstatement and we're struggling since.
Okay, you need to submit your matter to the inquiry mailbox with more detail because you've got 30 days from the reinstatement was processed to file the outstanding annual returns.
Our next question. Thank you for this one. What is the turnaround time for the finalization in terms
Okay?
of the code? Okay, we'll answer that question first.
All right, so that will depend on you as the customer as to how quickly you pay for the service once you have submitted the information. So it's within your domain.
The second part of the question, in terms of the OTP, what happens if the contact numbers are incorrect? Would we be able to update before finalization?
All right, so there's two components. You will not be able to update the directors and members' information unless the company has been reinstated. So you as the customer must ensure that your contact details is up to date. And when you go onto the landing pages for our platforms, there's always an option to say reset password or update password. So if you as the customer's information is outdated, please follow those procedures before.
Okay. From Christina, can a normal BO mandate work?
No, it cannot. A mandate in law is a document that is signed by the directors or the members or another natural person who is who's got the legal term is locus standi to mandate somebody X to submit. So you can Google what a mandate looks like. It's got certain legal components. The person must be identifiable as to who gave the instruction or the mandate. It must be dated. It must say in what capacity this director is acting as a director or a company secretary and who they give the mandate in law to. But you can actually Google mandate. But you cannot use the BA1. BO1, you can use it as a foundation because BO is more specific than a general mandate. But in law, any company secretary, any one of you that does deal in company services must get a written mandate from your client authorizing you to submit anything to the CIPC on their behalf. It's within our regulations.
Okay. The other questions are not actually related, but we can browse through it. Natasha, the link, this webinar is broadcast on Facebook. So whenever you would like to view it, you can watch it. It's on the CIPC Facebook page and on our YouTube page. The next question is, my company got deregistered because of AR and I cannot submit because I was waiting for my BO to get checked. It eventually got deregistered. Do I have to start this process?
Again, you will have to submit your inquiry for more detail and with evidence.
Okay, the next question is, I want to ask, if you did the application for reinstatement before, must we apply again the reinstatement which was not resolved previously?
Right. If you've submitted before an application for reinstatement and it hasn't been processed, it means it failed somewhere along the line. You will have to resubmit the reinstatement application. But first, go double check the documentation on the CIPC website as to the requirements and resubmit manually. If you get closer to the release date, you again need all the information, but then you'll just use the online service.
Okay, thank you for that. Our next question. Is there a fee to be paid to the lawyers to help with reinstatement? If yes, is the fee kept?
The Companies Act does not regulate attorneys' fees. So therefore, if you want to approach you've got a creditor that you need to get reinstated, you go to an attorney, that attorney's fees will be dealt with in terms of the High Court fee structures for them. It's not a CIPC matter as to the fees that attorneys ask to take matters on behalf of their clients.
Okay, our next question. Can a dormant entity status be changed from AR final deregistration to a voluntary deregistration without restoring and paying outstanding annual returns?
Yes, please refer to the deregistration requirement on the website. It clearly states if you want to convert from an AR final, if you are finally deregistered, no, once you're finally deregistered, you cannot convert it. If a deregistration is a deregistration is a deregistration in law. You can convert if it's an AR deregistration process. You can ask on the voluntary deregistration that it be converted. But once it's final, it is final. The law clearly states our law does not make a distinction between the reasons for triggering for a deregistration. It only states the legal effect of it. So legally, it does not matter. In law, you are finally deregistered, and the full relevance of it comes in. As a CIPC, to manage the different processes and legal requirements, because the annual return deregistration process has got other details and requirements to the voluntary. From a database perspective and an administrative perspective, we make a distinction between the two so we can build systems surrounding it. But a deregistration is a deregistration is a deregistration.
Thank you, Advocate. Will only the customer or agent receive an OTP PIN?
Yes, it's only the filer or the customer that logged in that will receive the OTP. And remember, Lizelle, the full liability is on the customer that all legal requirements has been submitted or complied with, and you have to keep your records to that fact.
Thank you. Our next question. For SMMEs that never really made an income and does not own any properties from the deregistered business, what sort of documentary proof will be required to provide activity?
It will depend. But in theory, if they never really traded or generated any income and they don't have any assets like a car or a house, then they need to register a new company because technically they were dormant.
Okay, our next question. So I don't have to upload any documents upon application. I just need to have them with me.
That is correct, except if it's a court order.
Thank you. Our next question. Okay. Unfortunately, SARS do not agree with the explanation given regarding deregistration due to non-compliance. No, I
Please
think
take it
is
up with
not.
SARS Legal's department. You need to take that up with SARS's legal department because we have explained to them the deregistration process on multiple occasions for over the last decade. So it may be a frontline staff member that did not get the memo. So you can escalate it within the SARS escalation procedures.
Thank you, Advocate, for that. Okay, we have come to an end of our questions. If there's any other questions, please put them in our comment section. And as I see there's no other questions, I'm going to close the session. I'll bring the session to the end. On behalf of our entire team, thank you for your time and attention today. Our presentation will be on the CIPC website. So if anyone wants to review the presentation, you can go to our website. Advocate Krista, is there any closing remarks you would like to make?
Thank you so much for availing yourself. I know it was short notice. We've got, like everybody else in South Africa, we've got 10 million balls all running in the same air at the moment. So just our apologies for the late notification. We will see how it goes in the next week or so, and especially with the release. And if there's a need, we will host another webinar if there's a need for it. But in the meantime, if you have got colleagues that you know that will benefit from this, because this is a high volume and it's a burden, it's a difficult area for the CIPC and you as our customers, please share the video with them, that they at least have the knowledge up front, that we can have a smoother release to it. And if you don't follow us on our CIPC platforms, social media, please register on the one that suits you best, because the release information will be on there as well, on that social media post. And with that, I would like to thank you, and thank you for your cooperation and especially your patience in the reinstatement environment. It is difficult, to say the least.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Advocate. Goodbye.
Bye.